Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mike, and welcome to The Nugget. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Dr. Teresa and I are traveling, so you may hear some background noise in the background. But once again, just know that we're traveling. Listen, I just want to share with you on this Thanksgiving Day about something that's been on my heart. You know, as I was in the stores starting this in the last month, I was in the stores looking for stuff or trying to get some stuff, and I noticed, one thing that they had already started putting up Christmas decorations and everything, selling trees, putting lights out and everything, and it was October, and it kind of struck me strange. It says that, listen, uh, November is even not here, and we're already putting up Christmas stuff, and I think that's what's happening to a lot of us. We're more so in the business of making profits for stores and getting people ready to spend money on Christmas for things, but we're truly missing some of the great holidays that's before us. And Thanksgiving is one of those holidays, and it's not about shopping and gifts, but it's about giving thanks. And I mean true thanks. In the life of a believer, there are some things that we should be truly happy about. And that is Christmas, the day that Christ was born, uh, Easter, the day that he died. And also this holiday, Thanksgiving, because it should be a day of giving thanks, and that's what we should be. We should be appreciative in our heart. And so when we talk about true thanks, uh, it's about our expression to God, as about what He has done for us. And thanks is an expression of appreciation or gratitude, or an acknowledgement of services or favors given. It also means to confess or to admit something. That when you begin to give thanks, you're letting somebody know, you're letting how much you appreciate them. To confess, listen, I really appreciate what you've done, and I thank you for all that you've done for me. And it's the same thing with God, which it's about giving thanks, true thanks in the life of a believer. Where our lives should be full of true thanks unto Him, not just specific holidays, but true thanks. And so that's what I want to talk to you about, true thanks this morning. Are we truly grateful? Are we truly thankful for what He has done? Or do we look more so toward Christmas and the commercialization of Christmas, that we truly forget? And I think the world has truly forgotten what true thanks is all about. And so I want to talk to you about a couple things today. Talk to you about giving thanks for God's abundance. Talk to you about release, giving thanks for God's wisdom to get us through the days in our lives, and giving thanks for salvation, which is so important in our lives. And so the first one I want to talk to you about is giving thanks releases God's abundant supply in your life and in my life. In Matthew chapter 14, verses 15 to 21. And I'm going to be reading to you out of New Lexham English Bible today. And listen, this is when Jesus was going off into a desert place, and the people followed him. And the evening had come for the people to be fed. And the disciples started saying to Jesus, listen, it's getting late. We need to send the people back to the villages so they can get themselves something to eat. And so we're talking about the giving thanks for an abundant supply. He says, but in verse 16, he says, but Jesus said to them, do they do not need to go away. you give them something to eat. And they said unto him, we do not have anything except 5 loaves and 2 fish. And so, what they're looking at, they're not looking at giving thanks for God's abundance, they're looking at their own limitations. And so, sometime in life, we look at our limitations and say that there's no way that we can have an abundance when we ourselves are limited in our resources. But I want you to know that if you begin to give thanks to God for his unlimited resources, God can begin to bless your lives like you've never seen him bless you before. And so this is what Jesus said. I understand your limitations. I understand you're limited. But listen, you serve a God of abundance. He's saying to his disciples, you serve a God of an abundance. And so in verse 18, this is what he did. He says, so he said, bring them here to me, talking about the loaves and the fish. And verse 19 says, and he commanded the crowd to recline for a meal on the grass. Now he reminded them, I want you to sit down, recline for a meal, not just a snack, but a meal. He says, taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish and looking up to heaven. Where is he looking? He's looking up to heaven. Who's he looking at? He's looking unto God. We're talking about an abundant supply and an unlimited God that he's able to supply your needs. He says, looking unto heaven, he gave thanks, true thanks. He gave thanks to God. Even though my supply is limited here on the earth, even though there's limitations, he says, but I'm giving thanks to you. I'm giving true thanks to you as he looks unto heaven. And that's what we should do sometimes. Let's allow us to look unto him and truly give him thanks. And he says, he looked unto heaven and he gave thanks. He began to confess. He began to commit. He began to give gratitude. He began to show an appreciation. And that's what thanks is all about. Lord, I appreciate what you're going to do. Even though my limitations, my supply is limited, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm grateful for what you're doing. And so when we begin to give him true thanks, this is the results. He says, and he gave the loaves to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowd, and they all ate and were satisfied. And they picked up what was left over of the broken pieces, 12 baskets full. And now those who ate were about 5,000 men, in addition to women and children. And so basically, we're saying approximately you may have 15,000 people that ate off, once again, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. But because Jesus gave thanks, he looked up to heaven and gave thanks. God was able to take the limitations that he had and begin to expand it with an abundant supply. And I'm saying to you this morning, as you begin to prepare your Thanksgiving meal, you may not have everything you want, but truly give thanks to him for what you have. And what you have will begin, God can begin to increase it and make an abundant supply in your life. I don't care if it comes to your finances. I don't care if it's come to you're being sick. I mean, I don't care whatever it may be, because your resources are limited. Just begin to give him thanks, true thanks for what he has given you. It's not about what you have, but what he can give you. And when he begins to give you, and you begin to give true thanks for where you are, what you have, then he begins to make an abundant supply of all of your need, that you come behind in nothing. And so when we give thanks unto him, we allow him to give us true abundance. Also, giving thanks releases God's wisdom on our lives. You know, there are times in our lives we don't know what to do, how to do. Circumstances and situations around us sometimes can be overwhelming, and we don't know what to do. Lord, how am I? So instead of complaining, instead of worrying about it, listen, give thanks to him. Lord, I give you thanks for you give me wisdom, you give me understanding, and you give me knowledge, so I can do the things that I don't know how to do, or Lord, how I can correct this situation in my life. And so giving thanks releases God's wisdom. Go with me to Daniel chapter 2, verses 22 and 23. And once again, we're reading out of the Lexham English Bible. And this is what it says. This is Daniel. So King Nebuchadnezzar has a dream, and all of his sorcerers and all of his wise men, all the people he had around him, they could not interpret the dream. They didn't know what the dream was. And he said to them, if you tell me what this dream is and you tell me the interpretation, he says, I'm going to bless you. And none of them could do it. And so he came to Daniel, and Daniel asked him, say, King, give me some time, and because I serve a God that knows everything, and he will come back with the interpretation of your dreams, and he'll tell me the meaning of all your dreams. And so Daniel went, he goes and he prays to God. He began to reel to God. And he begins to give thanks. In verse 22, he says, this is God. He reveals the deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness. Oh, the deep and the hidden things. You ever reached that point in your life you didn't really know what to do? You didn't have an answer to the situation that you were in, and no one around you had an answer to the situation. But when, just as Daniel, just as you should do, you just begin to give thanks unto him. Because once again, he is the one that reveals the deep things, the hidden things. And so those and things that are in darkness that you can't see, that you can't see a light, you can't see a way out. There's no light, there's no path, you can't see it. But we serve a God that can reveal those things unto us, those things that are hidden, what's in darkness, and the light that dwells with him. So he's the one that gives us light in the midst of our darkness to the solution of our issues and our problems and whatever we may be going through. And once again, it could be anything. He says, verse 23 says, to you, O God of my ancestors, I give thanks. I give thanks and give praise for the wisdom and the power you gave to me. And so he begins to thank God for the wisdom and the power that God has given unto him. And listen, that's what we should be doing. There's no situation that is too hard that we cannot get an answer from God. If we are true believers and we are truly thankful, we're truly giving thanks, and we're grateful, because guess what? We can look back in our past and see everything that God has done. All the situations he's brought us out before, all the victories. When there seemed to be defeat, we claimed victory, and God revealed and God showed victory. And so that's all we have to do. He says, I give thanks and I give praise for the wisdom and the power, which means the wisdom to know what to do, when to do it, the understanding as to what's being revealed unto me, and what the power or the ability to get out of that situation and to make it a great situation for me. He says to give me, and now you have made known to me what we have asked for you have made known to us the matters of the king. And so what Daniel says, God, you gave, through my giving you thanks, you've given me answers to what the king is facing in life. And so Daniel goes back to Nebuchadnezzar and give him an answer to his dream. And Nebuchadnezzar turns around and blesses Daniel and says, who is wiser than the God of Daniel? And so this begins to change Nebuchadnezzar's life, because he had ran into a person that truly understood God, understood a person that can truly connect to God. And that is you, my beloved. That is you today. When you begin to give God thanks, God will begin to give you the wisdom, not only for your situation, but He give you wisdom for the situations of others. He give you situations for the problem that you may be experiencing in your family, in your home, in the business, at work. God will begin to give you the answer, because once you begin to give thanks. And lastly, listen, we need to give thanks that God releases God's salvation unto us. Giving thanks releases God's salvation unto us. Turn with me to Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 through 28. And this is a story we're very familiar with. This is the Last Supper. And Jesus is about to go to the cross. He's having his last meal with his disciples. And this is what we should truly be thankful for. We're thankful for the cross. We're thankful for him being born, but we're thankful for him making himself available to us and giving salvation unto us by making the way. And so, verse 26 says this, chapter 26, verse 26. And now, while they were eating, Jesus took bread and after giving thanks, this was the prelude to him giving salvation unto you, giving salvation unto me. He says, giving thanks, he broke it and given it to the disciples. And he said, take, eat, this is my body. And just imagine, instead of the disciples being there, just imagine you were there with him at this time. You were there and he's giving thanks because you begin to understand. They didn't understand at the time. He's giving thanks for what he's about to do. He's giving thanks to God. And he's saying to them, listen, guys, I'm giving thanks to God. This is for your salvation. You're at the table with him, and he's about to give thanks for the salvation that's going to be released unto you and to me. Not only salvation, but the deliverance that's going to be released in our lives, for healing that's going to be released in our lives, for prosperity that's going to be released in our lives. He says, take, eat, this is my body. In verse 27, and after taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, the agreement, the contract, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sin. This is him giving thanks to them. He's showing them how to be thankful for the cup of salvation that's going to be poured out upon them. It says, and out for many for the forgiveness of sin. And so this morning, as you begin to gather around with your family, or maybe by yourself, I don't know, but truly begin to give thanks unto him. Give thanks for his abundant supply, that he's able to meet all of our needs. Give thanks for the wisdom that he gives us to understand, that we know how to cope with things in life, that we're not alone. He'll give us the wisdom to do it. Give him thanks for the salvation that's been released in our lives. As he sat with his disciples, I want you this morning to just give thanks for his body, for his blood, for the covenant that his blood represents with us, the agreement and the contract that we have with God. Why? Because he has poured out his blood for all of us, for our forgiveness of our sins. And I want you to know that there's nothing you could ever do, there's nothing that you've ever done, that the salvation of God cannot rescue you or bring light into the midst of darkness. And so, once again, begin to get into a place of giving true thanks unto him. We thank him for all the holidays, but let us not jump ahead and not give true thanks unto him. Let us not become like the world. They're more interested once again in sales and merchandise and Black Friday and Black Monday, that we got into a place that we are missing the value of giving true thanks unto him. Listen, so happy Thanksgiving unto you. God bless you. And once again, thank you for allowing me to become part of your Thanksgiving meal. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you again very soon on The Nugget with Dr. Mike. You all have a blessed and wonderful